4 short days to what could be the most important day of Nikki Haley's political career, at least so far. The New Hampshire primary, to which her campaign has pointed as a potential display of viability, of electability. And yet, she's stuck getting a third, fourth, fifth crack at explaining why she doesn't think the United States, which allowed slavery for its first 90 years, has ever been a racist country. Watch.
First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country.
You're talking about the ideals of America, but America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look at said all men are created equal, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal.
Still trying to fix him. Joining our conversation, president of the National Action Network and host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and former Democratic Congresswoman, MSNBC political analyst Donna Edwards. Basil is back with us. First, Rev, just evaluate that answer for us, from your view.
It's absurd. I mean, first of all, before they wrote the Declaration of Independence, or even got to the U.S. Constitution, blacks had been enslaved in this country since 1619. She jumps to the late 1700s. When they wrote that all men are created equal, they only saw white men as men. Blacks were 3/5 of a man. Women were somewhat subjected to some subhuman status. And she knows better. Why do I say she knows better? She was the governor when our group, National Action Network, and others fought in South Carolina for her to take down the Confederate flag. And the whole history of racism that went down. She wouldn't do it until after the massacre in Charleston at Mother Emanuel AME Church. She's playing to a crowd that wants to deny the racial history of this country. No one could be governor of South Carolina, take down Confederate flag in front of the Capitol and Confederate statues, and then try to pretend like they thought that there was the intent of people in the late 1700s that formed this country that had already had slaves, and they themselves had slaves, but their intent was that we were all equal. This is absurd and the most cynical kind of political chicanery I've seen in a long time.
Donna, I think part of what makes this additionally interesting is the fact that you have seen Trump go after her for being Indian, right? The way that he misspells, mispronounces her name. Our colleague Ali Vitali was on the trail, got to ask her about this. Take a listen.
Do you think that the attacks that Trump is waging against you are racist?
I mean, look, I'll let people decide what he means by his attacks. What we know is, look, he's clearly insecure. If he goes and does these temper tantrums, if he's going and spending millions of dollars on TV, he's insecure. He knows that something's wrong. I don't sit there and worry about whether it's personal or what he means by
it. I want to know what you think about that as a strategy.
Well, look, I spent all of last night after I listened to her response, and I tried to find a word. Well, the word for me is flummoxed, completely perplexed by why Nikki Haley is taking this strategy, given where Donald Trump is coming from, because it's not winning her any voters. It's not as though her dancing around the issue of slavery or around the issue of racism or even her own personal life and experience is gaining her any support among those Trump supporters. And so I don't really get it as a political strategy. And look, she's from South Carolina. It's the first state that seceded from the Union because it was, deemed hostile to slaveholding states. So I don't really get her. I don't understand her. And I don't understand what she hopes to gain by it.
Right. I mean, Basil, I'll layer onto that history that Haley is the former South Carolina governor who removed the Confederate battle flag from the state's capital. And yet she won't say what is plain. Is it a matter of fear, or is it delusion that she's going to have access to those voters?
Yeah, well, as I said before, I don't really understand the strategy here, because who do you think you're going to get by saying all of this? Some of Trump's supporters, they're going to vote for Trump no matter what. So what's the point of all of this? And I would say to any person of color, and I have to say this, if you're Black, certainly, but any person of color that is even thinking about supporting her, rest assured she doesn't even see you. She's looking past you to her own ambitions. Because when you make statements like this, all you're trying to do is sanitize America's history. That's incredible for her, as we've discussed here, because her father, who is Sikh, who had a turban, when they were out shopping, and she tells this story, had police were called on him when they were out shopping. As the Rev said, she presided over the taking down of the Confederate flag from the state capitol after a white supremacist shot up a church and killed multiple people there. So if you are looking for any history or any context for why this country could be racist, you've already got it. But also consider the fact that Donald Trump is doing to her exactly what he did to Barack Obama. The person who created birthism is now trying to also single her out because of her ethnicity. And yet she wants to say none of this really matters. And by the way, historically, 10 of the first 12 presidents were slave owners. So if you're trying to get into the head of the framers, look no further than that to understand how important slavery was to the history and economic vitality of this country. I don't understand the strategy. It gets her no one. And it actually diminishes pretty much our entire presidential nominating process by having her in there talking about this.